today, welcome again to our podcast, Top Voices. And Top Voices is where we're very fortunate to get the opportunity to get to talk to leaders in the language management and language tech industry. And today I'm Paula McGrath. I'm the CEO of International Achievers Group. And we have, as usual, the lovely Bruno Herrmann, who is a recognised leader in the industry. And we are fortunate to have Peter Reynolds. Peter is the CEO of memoQ. And what we're going to be talking about is hopefully whatever Peter's comfortable to share or happy to share, getting to know you a little better, and then talking about different potential progression pathways within memoQ, talking about memoQ itself, and then talking about maybe how you engage internally and externally with the stakeholders within your organisation and the industry in general. So, going to get started. And I suppose sort of the easier way for a lot of people is we start talking, people are happy to tell us a little bit about how you ended up in this industry, how you ended up with this organisation and educational background, and etc.
Well, my original career was in social work. Like I was working for Dublin Simon Community, and then went over to work in a city called Bradford in England, working for a similar night shelter and that. And it got at the stage that I wanted to come back to Ireland. I wanted to get a job with a little less unpredictability and a little less, maybe for want of a better word, violence. So I saw a job for a company called Softrands for doing something that I'd never heard of, but I applied for the job and had an interview where the woman asking me questions was saying, "Are you sure you really want to work for us?" But eventually I convinced her that that her main problem was she didn't believe that I'd actually be that interested in what they had to do. But I found it fascinating. Softrands was a company established in Dunleary by a man called Brian Kelly. And essentially it had the idea was that it would sell translation services to technology companies. Okay. And they were the first company actually doing that. Other competitors at the time, like ITP and Inc. and ITP wasn't there at that time when they started, but Inc. and so on, were all doing traditional translation things. And Softrands focused exclusively on the technology companies, and particularly technology companies that had established in Dublin. And they got bought by Berlitz. Okay. Berlitz got bought by BAM Global Solutions. And BAM Global Solutions got bought by Linebridge. And I sat in the same desk as the plaque on the wall outside.
Just changed names.
I was still living in Dublin at the time, and Linebridge is based in a tiny town in Massachusetts called Waltham. Mm-hmm. So, being based in Dublin, I went to work from one company based in Waltham to another company based in Waltham, Massachusetts, which was called Idiom. And that was quite an interesting company. Eric Silberstein, who founded Idiom, had been an intern for Microsoft in China when they were doing Windows 95. And his idea was that they had got the biggest software project, biggest translation project ever, as part of the biggest software release that's ever been done in the most languages. And this company had got an ERP system for everything. They had a system for ordering paper clips. And then they had a couple of cat tool licenses for translation. And he saw a potential for having what he called a globalization management system that was later called a translation management system. And he built a very interesting company with a very interesting product, and it was very enjoyable to work in that company. And I was part of an LSP partner program, and we actually headhunted our LSPs and I think, got the ones that were really targeting and giving a lot of value to our customers, and we worked with them very, very closely. And even this week at the Taos conference, people were saying to me that was a very valuable partnership, and they got a lot out of it. I went from Idiom to memoQ, which at the time was 3 techie guys that they'd worked for a company called Morphologic, which
That reminds me.
Morphologic was a Hungarian technology company that developed rule-based machine translation, later statistical machine translation, and Gabaru Gray, Istvan Lengel, and Blaz Kish had worked there. They presented an idea for essentially what was client-server cat tool, and we're told, no, that'll never catch on. Trados have got the market, so they went off and formed their own company. And when I joined, they weren't quite sure what to do. Idiom had just been bought by STL, and a lot of people at Idiom were let go just before that. So they contacted a guy called Josecha, who told them, what should we do? Can we hire one of these people? And he said, hire me. So they ended up offering me no money for a year, and it was.
How attractive was that?
There were shares involved.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
But eventually, one of the things that we did at Idiom was to sort of look at the market, and we saw that Trados was, or STL at the time, they were targeting either enterprise customers or translators. Across was targeting enterprise customers. Deja Vu was targeting translators. Everybody was scared of the LSP, and we came to conclude that the reason for this is that the LSP had got bright people like likes of the equivalent of someone like Bruno, who really knew what they're talking about. So when you went into the LSP, they would tell you what's wrong with your software. And 90% of it would be pretty accurate, which nobody wanted to face.
That sounds quite usual, Paula, right?
I don't know. Nobody ever accuses me of being super smart, so I'll have to believe you.
No. It's, I keep saying that. I keep saying the same.
But
no, you do,
we decided that if we could target these people, it could really help us grow, because we'd learn an awful lot by, we concluded they were the most difficult customer in the space. That an enterprise customer was probably more difficult to, it would take longer to sell to, but they weren't more difficult. Translators weren't more difficult. But the LSPs really knew what they were doing, and were, they had to look after every penny that they spent, even then.
Yeah.
The other thing that we decided to do to, make us a strong company was to grow in Germany. The reason for this is that Trados were in Germany, OnTram were in Germany, Across were in Germany. Every good translation technology out there was in Germany. We wanted to win in our competitors' backyard.
Okay.
And we felt that if we could sell to German companies and really grow in Germany, then we'd be a force worth reckoning. And we've still got many of those customers.
Okay.
They've often changed their name. Like we had Deutsche Post, which is now DHL, but they're still with us. And we were very grateful for some of the consultants and trainers, likes of Angelika Zarfas, Daniel Zielinski. They were all people whom were supportive of memoQ at the beginning, and are still, we've had a memoQ Fest every year since 2009, and both those people were at the first one, and they were at the one just held a month ago.
Okay. It's interesting. When you speak about, just when you started out, there seems to have been a lot of innovation. Based on what I've just heard there now, particularly in the earlier years of your career, and there seems to be a huge focus. And also, you brought this topic up. We were both at Taos for the last couple of days. And are you seeing as much innovation now or where is the innovation? And you also asked a very good question around, and I'm jumping around a little bit, but where is the talent sitting? You actually, I think it was you asked that question. Where is the talent sitting for the innovation? Which part of the market or the industry is it sitting?
To just give you the memoQ example, 5 years ago we wouldn't be innovative, but there's a Bob Dylan song where he comes up with the line, "I was older then, I'm so much younger now," and that's what memoQ feels like.
Okay.
About 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, we appointed a woman to head up our or to be our CTO. And previous to that, we knew the right things to say, the right things that we knew what we should do. We knew all the things to say, every buzzword we could say. She did all this stuff instead of saying it, which has been quite innovative. Like, we're much faster at getting stuff done. 4 years ago, when we would have talked about agile, we would have talked about, we'll do Scrum, and that's us being agile. But now what we're talking about, every second, like today, there's going to be what they call a production demo at memoQ, where an assortment of developers are going to say what they've done over the last 2 weeks. And it's always releasable software. And that sort of speed, that's really what Agile is about. And those demo meetings are exactly, the proof that we are an Agile company. Like, everybody talks about doing Scrum and, buzzwords.
Yeah, just you can have the list of buzzwords here on the table.
Yeah.
You can find them in every presentation now. So I think it's a good question. And actually, well, I wasn't at Teos, but I love to ask people when they speak about innovation. I think from my experience, innovation is twofold. You have innovation from a tech perspective, which is where you add functionality, you add features, etc. So this is the tech stack, actually.
Yeah.
And then you have innovation from an operation side,
Yeah.
which is how you actually use your ecosystem or your system actually and make it work to create value in an organization, which might be, a startup or a multinational. So I think that I would like to get your opinion about, how you see that happening from, in your client, because obviously there are a number, and I have a passion for language tech, and in LT Innovate, I'm the vice chairman of LT Innovate, we see a lot of innovation from a pure tech perspective, which is great. But as an operations guy myself, I always look at that sort of innovation also from an operational perspective, how this is going to be valuable, because otherwise tech without value is just tech. So how do you see that happening? Is it something that you struggle with when you work with your clients, or are your clients immediately aware of how to create value with the memoQ tech?
Yeah. Let me just, before getting into that, just start. One of the things I tell people that I quote frequently is this quote from 70 years ago. And it's a quote from Peter Drucker, that the purpose of purpose of a business is to create a customer. And because of that, it's only got two functions: innovation and marketing. And, that if somebody said that now, they would be considered, probably the greatest business mind of their generation and whatever. He said it 70 years ago, and it's been true always. And so, without thinking about the customer and without understanding what they're doing and how they're doing, you can't innovate. What we do is an awful lot of conversations. We have a team of product managers who basically talk to people and listen to people. And we've done things like we've got... Many of our customers are very knowledgeable, very opinionated. They would like to kick the table and say sort of, this should be done and whatever. And we like to encourage that. Like, we like to encourage strong opinions and people saying, what they want and being clear about it. We've brought in people into the office whom have raised really big concern with the team about where things, about how to do certain things, what's right, what's wrong, and we honest conversations is the basis of innovation.
I agree.
We also have an attitude to we're very hype averse, which is probably something that we should get less worried about. But we don't say that we tick every box on the planet, and we don't say that we're going to use AI to so that you'll be able to do everything in your office, from ordering paper clips to signing legal contracts or whatever. But we have been, the generative AI era has been really good to us because of what we did before. Like, because memoQ put extra time and energy into translation resources. Like, we're the only tool that did a complete rethink of the translation memory that we use. We're the only tool, the only reasonably sized commercial tool that's now got a corpus memory. We've got many other things, and all of these are perfect for the generative AI area. 'Cause it's like the joke about translate. How many translators does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is it depends on the context. Context is what we've been talking about, and we've also last year acquired a company called Globalies. I mentioned that memoQ came from Morphological, so did Globalies. So it was kind of like getting the band together again. It was more than an acquisition. Like, there wasn't a lot of time where people had to get to know each other. Everybody knew each other, and Globalies brought a lot of new thinking into memoQ. And what we're doing at the moment is we're looking at what the next generation of translation will look like. We think that the future probably be, if you use LLM-based technology to do translation, it's better to use big chunks of text, big chunks of content rather than segments or whatever. So we see that as being a way forward, and we're working on that. We also see, because we have developed a corpus memory called LiveDocs that had, you'd put in, you could have aligned documents in it, you could have source documents, target documents that weren't aligned. And because we had all that, we've got something that can better provide context information in a system where you're sending an entire document for translation. So we think this is one of the things that's after the current phase with LMs. The next phase is this, and we're jumping at it and getting ready. And these phases happen earlier, and this was entirely predictable. Like, one of the people that now works with memoQ, sometimes Jay Marciano, is who works with us as a consultant. He's been saying for some time that the phases in machine translation, that the current phase is always half as long as the previous phase. Like, rule-based MT was for 50 years, statistical MT was for 25. NMT's been for about 7 or 8. Who knows how long with this phase? But the likelihood is that we'll be, that there are new innovations around the corner, and we have to get ready for that, and everybody's to get ready for that.
No, it's a very good point, actually. But I think that also, well, I want to share your opinion about it. But whether you talk about LLM or SLM, because sometimes SLMs are more effective than LLMs, or NMT, in my experience currently, there is no silver bullet. It's not, LLMs are going to kill NMT, or vice versa. I think it depends on the industry, depends on the type of content. So everything has to be contextualized, to use your point before. But what I would like to hear from you is also the importance of, your opinion about the importance of data. Because whether you start with LLMs or we start with NMT, I think the upstream priority should be data,
Yeah.
language data for LLMs, and of course corpus for an MT.
Yeah.
So, how do you see the sort of for a memoQ perspective? How do you see this big focus on language data? If we talk about LLMs or SLMs, and how do you sort of take actions to indeed not just manage corpuses, but corpus, well, several, one or two.
The plural of corpus, whatever it is.
Well, whatever it is, yeah, exactly. It's too old for me. That's really like Latin is way back, and also the current focus, which I see in many clients now, and I'm not the only one to see that. Many client organizations about language data, how they, for instance, can convert existing assets into language data to train their LLMs or their SLMs.
Yeah.
How do you see those two fronts on the data management side?
This is a really big area, and there isn't, as you put it, a silver bullet. One of the things that we're advising, many customers is that don't throw out,
The baby with the
baby in
bathwater.
the bathwater. Just keep everything. Well, one of the things that happened after the ChatGPT, basically that somebody put an interface on an LLM, and then everybody's imagination was just caught up. I went to Block World a couple of months after that, and everybody was talking about this is the end of everything as we know it and whatever. And we looked at that and thought, no, it's not the end of everything as we know it. That really the fact that we've got all these things like translation, memories, corpus, we've got the data, that puts us in a really strong position. And also to get back to your point about the difference with quality, there's an awful lot being said where it's anecdotal evidence about quality. The same people that are saying that you need lots of data and you need things, they will provide their opinions or their friends' opinions on the quality of of a system. And we've researched this. Like I think we were the first company to come up with a RAG, a retrieval augmented generation functionality within the tool. And we compared that to DeepL, Modern MT, and Google. And what we found is that when we were sending a segment or whatever to it was Microsoft's version of OpenAI. When we were sending that to them without any fuzzy matching or any other resources, the other systems were just good. When we were sending it with a small number of fuzzy matches, like 5 or 6 fuzzy matches, we could get this. We were well above what Google or whatever would produce without it being a customized engine. The level of quality we were getting was just to what you would get from a customized engine. If you had Modern MT as a customized engine, then we couldn't really, we'd be on par with you. It wasn't the case that we're better than that. Okay. We're constantly experimenting with this to see if...
that's the word I like, experimenting.
we want to see whether the improvements in the LLMs means there's an improvement. And we found with OpenAI 4.0 that is quite good, and there is something of an improvement. But essentially... There are issues with using an LLM that are, it's a generic LLM used by that. And we would prefer to, have it much more focused. What do you call it, an SLM or whatever? It makes sense to have that. We're looking at that. Like, for example, this week's issue with LLMs is the amount of memory that they keep. If, for example, a translator decided to use Google's Notebook LM for translation, and on Tuesday they're working for RWS, and on Friday they're working for TransPerfect. It could be that the LLM, without them knowing, is giving information from one company to another, and that's this week's problem.
Yeah.
Next week's problem is
it's a very good example. I think you are mentioning here, because and just to circle back on what you said before, and I discussed that this morning with Paula. Every time there is somebody saying it's the end of or dead.
Yeah.
These are red flags for me, because it's never the end of. It's never, something is not really dead. I mean, I heard that 25 years ago with the internet. Oh, the internet is going to kill TV. It's going to kill radio. Radio and TV are still there. The internet didn't kill all of them, so it was not the death of TV.
We're
death
in the
of
podcast.
TV. Yeah, and this
is radio.
I know
that. Exactly. No,
Yeah.
And I think to your point, Paula, when you said, when you asked the question about innovation, I think when you hear those words, "dead," "the end of," this is already not a good sign for me about somebody saying or talking about innovation, because innovation doesn't have to kill anyone. Innovation has to add up to other things that to add value, not to kill the existing value, but to amplify the value. And this is what LLMs are doing, in my experience. They are augmenting, they are amplifying the value. They are not killing the value of an MT, for instance.
And this gets back to the point Paula was making earlier about the next generation of translators.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, at the moment, it's an augmentative technology. Yeah. But there's a problem with every area that LLMs are being used with junior people. Like, for example, the problem with coding is well documented, where junior developers can't get jobs. And, you can't just go in and become a senior developer. It's a very strong issue. The same thing's happening with translators. Why would somebody who's a linguist, who loves languages, go to university for 4 years, 5 years even, because a lot of them are PhDs and masters and whatever, to be told that there's no jobs there for
entry
people,
level.
for entry level.
Well, it's funny actually. You did actually also bring that up at Taos, and you reminded me when I have a previous profession, and then I went into recruitment about 25 to 30 years ago, and when I bought I actually established the first recruitment company. So I bought a second recruitment company, and I can remember being approached by. I got the surprise in my life being approached by a number of, particularly French, young graduates, offering to pay my company a couple of $1,000 or euro a year to come and do an internship for a year or two. And I remember going to the person that was sort of pretty much more hands-on than I was. I was sort of sitting there trying to make sensible decisions. And I sort of said, okay, this actually sounds immoral, but I don't understand this, because I came from my background is going to be a partner firm of accountants, so I come from that very, very structured. You go in, you get you're sponsored, or you have your degree, and you get paid, but you get paid from the start. And this person who was actually also French, who was the manager of the office, and he said to me, "No, this is the culture. So in order to get started, what happens is the graduates expect to have to pay." So I was reminded I'd forgotten about that until you asked that question yesterday, and I was thinking, is that actually doesn't sound like a bad idea. Instead of all these youngsters going and paying huge amounts of money and spending an awful lot of time to have lots and lots more letters after their name, is that not a sensible option? And I'm not advocating that companies abuse these grads, but it's a better way to go in, prove the fact that you are actually worth the investment in 2 years' time, and it ends up being, in effect, a very effective working interview. So I'd actually completely forgotten about that. Now we haven't been approached in years and years for that. So I'm guessing that policy faded out.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts on it are.
There has to be something like internship or whatever. I think there will be people that go to study languages because they like it, and sometimes I don't know what Pete Buttigieg studied in college, but he's gone into situations where he was in a hospital and there was a parent and a child that could only speak Arabic, and he started translating for them. And then a couple of hours later, he came back to check with the doctor and ask how the person was doing. And the doctor said, "How long have you been a translator?" And Pete says, "No, I'm the mayor." There are people like that, but Djokovic is also somebody that's a wonderful linguist. Like, he gets upset when he's in France or whatever, and they ask him questions in English. He says, "I can cope."
I think, though, there's always examples of these extremely talented individuals, but they probably only represent a teeny tiny percentage of our population. So most graduates coming out, I mean, they could be, very bright people, but there has to be some system that facilitates most people rather than just
I know.
tiny
I think
the stories are funny, but
I think we have to have something that, like, with us, it's we hire developers, and I think what was used to be called a junior developer and was specific thing. It's pointless having somebody do that now because you can do that with the systems. But you want to use AI to speed up to augment the development process. But it should be the case that many of these people should be what will probably be called AI natives. I'm sure, as opposed to digital natives and whatever. And they should be quite good at being able to use that. Like, they've been cheating at college for the last 4 years with ChatGPT, so they should be able to use these tools to better work and it could be that it's almost having somebody like that within the team is quite a good way to work. Translation's more complicated because it's I like the vision that the Common Sense Advisory, the CSA research had for an augmented translator, where the translator is at the centre of quite a lot of tools that provide really excellent functionality. And you need not just translation, but the ability to be able to control the symphony, to be able to orchestrate things and to be able to do all that. And I think this is interesting. At the Taos conference, there's a certain detachment from. They don't seem to understand that this is a real issue. That that there are people there involved, even in maybe in the likes of Google and Microsoft. It's almost completely automated, and the people do quality checking or whatever. But there are two companies.
Yeah.
The rest of the world,
the general population, the general business
suspects presenting and saying, that's unfortunately the case in many conferences, whether it's Lockworld or Gala or Taos. Here, you have those usual suspects, and they do great things. But Meta doesn't have exactly the same means as the startup.
I know, but I think
in
business,
Europe. So it's just it's not just a matter of mindset. It's a matter of resources and money, and you have all these things.
I get that, and I do actually agree in principle with the point. But the only thing, as a small business owner myself, sometimes I want to hear the gold standard speak. I do want to actually, knowing that I'll be long gone before. I mean, I won't. And sometimes it's just a bit of a distraction. But it is interesting sometimes to hear the gold standard. But also, these
there's different gold standards.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a bad phrase, which was also said many times over the last few days. But I agree with you on that. But I can see the attraction. I do see the attraction, because otherwise we're all just speaking to our friends.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's good to do that. But sometimes we're really not on the same ballpark.
No, I know.
Most of our customers, we've avoided the huge technology companies because most of them, firstly, they develop their own technology, and it's a 2-year cycle where at the end of it the word is no.
I know that line.
And we sort of talk, why go there? But many of the customers that we work with are iconic customers. that have been doing quite fantastic work in different fields, that really think seriously about what they're doing. Like, Bruno previously worked in the field of medical testing and in that area, and that's somewhere where memoQ has thrived, and we've dealt with many of those companies, and they've been incredibly knowledgeable, pushy customers, which is what you want, because if you've got customers that say what they want and push you a bit, it's good for the company. It's keeps you fit as a company.
It's not only good for you, but actually it brings you closer to reality, because since I started in 1994 and I spent a few years on the supplier side, I noticed immediately that there was a gap between suppliers and clients in different ways, in terms of value creation, in terms of operations, etc. But something that I've noticed since then is that in many clients' environments, many, not all of them, the use of multilingual content is actually included or integrated into global supply chains or product management supply chains, whatever you call it. And actually, some suppliers, they just want to deliver. They want to be a vendor, a commodity vendor, whether it's for tech or services, and they are happy like that. But they will never actually see the real world. And, I spoke to a number of small or medium-sized LSPs, and they are saying, oh, yeah, but, we've been working for clients for years. And I keep saying, there is a difference between working for a client and working in a client.
Yeah.
You don't see the same thing. The reality is different. In client environments, there is more complexity, politics, dynamics. Well, and I think that this is also a good thing for a company like memoQ to be pushed, because if you are pushed, you are automatically more exposed to how a client really works, which is not always nice, comfortable, but which brings you as a company closer to how to delight the customer.
Yeah.
Do you know as well what I thought was a seriously overused word in the last 2 days? Value. Last night when I got home, if anybody used the word value again, I was going to burst in.
I was one of the people that was using this word.
It was, oh my Lord.
Really? Oh, okay.
Oh, now the thing is, let's say we decided we needed localization services or language management services, which honestly we probably are going to have to do it soon, but I don't care. I expect you to provide value. That's about, to me, as exciting as me telling you I brushed my teeth this morning. But do you know how many times... I don't understand why people are promoting it as, what do you call the USP, United Selling, or what's the word? Unique selling point.
Unique selling point, yeah.
To me, I actually thought, oh my Lord, make that the minimum standard and move up. And it's just, I heard it time and time again. And people were getting excited by it. But you also, can I just try, and then I will stop. You also said something to me last week. We obviously would have regular meetings, and you made a difference between contributing value and...
So yeah, there is value contribution, value creation, and value realization. Value contribution is on the supplier side, value creation is on the client side, and value realization is on the client side. So you have a cycle, value. It's in business, in all business schools, that's what people learn. I had a chance to attend a business school, so and I think that for that reason, I agree with you. Sometimes the word value is overused or misused just because people are not talking about the same thing. There are some suppliers, and I know it's not the case for memoQ, so don't worry.
No, this is not an attack at you, honestly.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, some suppliers believe, honestly, that they are the value creator. And I keep saying, no, you are contributing to the value that your client is going to create with what
you're providing.
And that's where, they believe that they are in such a comfort zone, then they can just be, a vendor, that's enough. Yeah. But no, that's not enough. Because the day something will change on the client side, a new leader, a new C-level, a new D-level, then people will say, what's this supplier? It's a translation company. We don't need that. There are execs who say that all the time. It happens all the time. And I think that, to your point, when you are pushed, I'm using your word, so when you are pushed by clients, I think, first of all, it's a sign that your client is identifying the value you are contributing to,
Yeah.
and also that it brings you in a mindset, I would say, that is going to be much more customer centric, because you will not just have some sort of insight in what the client is doing, how the client is operating, but also you can be more ready to react in case of a new exec saying, "Hey, memoQ, what are you doing for us?" So it's a way to avoid status quo, but status quo that is going to, probably for some companies, that's going to be a killer.
Yeah.
The death knell.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also maybe being a little bit pedantic, but it is a thought that I came away with.
Just to defend the word value, because it does mean something, and what it means is important. We constantly are looking at our software and our thing to try to improve how it puts money in our customers' pockets.
Yes.
Whether they're corporate customers or
yeah.
translators or LSPs. We would like them to be richer because they use our tool. We don't want to be the cheapest tool, but we want to be the tool that, because they use it, they save more money.
Yeah.
Like, the HET thing, we had a situation where one of our customers, a Canadian translation company, told a major Canadian bank that they saved $1 million. But that's an example of a sort of technology that proven value according to this translation company. And, HubSpot have also got a case study on our website about how they use it, and obviously they won't make any claims that are
and there is nothing wrong about contributing to value. It's not, in my perspective, it's not more impressive than creating the value, but it's just at different stages. If everything in life has a sort of chain. There is always a starting point and end point, and value is in that context. Value starts somewhere and it ends somewhere, and in between you have different stages. The creation stage is really on the client side, and then the final delivery is on the client side. But actually, the fact that you mentioned this example, I like the words that you used. We are there to put money in our clients' pockets. I like it. I'm going to reuse that. It's really the very good definition of what a real customer-centric supplier should be, and not believe that we are the best in the world, or we're the cheapest in the world, or we should be the most cost-effective in the world. Maybe
exactly.
that is a different thing. But you see, words matter, and specifically, and I know memoQ is very good at that. When you are talking to decision makers who are not probably experts in TMS or language technology, they just want to see in their mind the value that you are going to bring with your solution, not just your tool, but your solution, even though they are not specialists, they are not experts. So they have to sort of get your message, in a way that is creating in their mind the value. And of course, that is a real skill. Because many suppliers fail because when they are in a big defense meeting or when they are in a simple meeting, they cannot just catch the attention of decision makers, but they cannot convey the message from experts to non-experts.
Exactly.
So I think memoQ has this asset of being able to speak to non-experts, decision makers, execs, while being experts themselves.
Well, at the conference, when I brought up the word value, it was an answer to a question about quality. And at every conference, people go on for age about quality, and it's very internal sort of view of quality that, it's the language industry looking in itself and what is quality. So I brought up an unusual example of a man called Joe Strummer, who was the lead singer in a band called The Clash. And, I had the privilege of being able to see them as a teenager, and I used to listen quite carefully to things he said. And he sort of had a definition of quality which was around passion and value for money, and he would castigate his competitors who weren't trying hard enough, didn't care about it, and weren't providing value for the audience. And he'd also praise other bands. Like in an interview that they have on YouTube, he's there saying how wonderful the Undertones are because they really try hard, they care about what they're doing, and they try and add value, try and go, make sure that their audience leaves happy. And I like that, the thing of passion, that something should be important and it should produce extra value. I think I was the first person that said value in this
I'm now sorry I
conference.
brought this point up. No, the thing for me, I get exactly, for me, my philosophy, and this is what I say to the team, is, do you know what would be a brilliant result for us is if a HR manager or a hiring manager, whatever different department, comes to us and said, I went home at 6:00 on Friday night and I was able to go home because I'd hired the right people or it was the right fit and they fit in and they made us more money or they cut our costs or whatever the individual is hired for. That for me is a dream comment. It's the same
Excellent,
thing, but it's the desired output. So I need to move away from that. I might have misphrased, but I didn't want to hear the word again because I felt it was being used as an amazing offering. It's like, oh my Lord, no, it should be part of what you talk about. It should be part of automatically part of your offering.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But
I think for many people it is,
I agree with you.
I think there is another word which is used, overused, misused, which is quality.
Yeah.
Quality is, and I've been in conferences for more than 20 years, there is always at least one session on quality management.
Yeah.
And of course it means different things to different people. But the one thing that I always, when people are asking me why don't you use the word quality anymore, and I replace that word with effectiveness, it's because for me, content or products in general, they have a job to do. The job is to create an experience for the client, right?
Yeah.
And quality is so subjective. It is sometimes so vague. You just try to grab some signs of value somewhere, rather with KPIs around effectiveness. What effectiveness means for a pharmaceutical company or for a travel company.
Yeah.
Effectiveness for a pharmaceutical company means compliance.
Yeah.
The travel company will not say compliance. I'm not regulated. So you see that, and quality sometimes becomes such a, the point is valid, but the word quality has been so often used as a sort of personal opinion or some sort of rather subjective measurement of, is it right, is it wrong, is it so. I think that effectiveness brings, and that's why I stopped using quality. Effectiveness brings this clarity around what is the job of your content, of your products in 25 languages. If it's training material, the job is to train. If it's product information, the job is to sell the product. Content and products have a job to do.
Yeah.
And you as a supplier, language tech or language services, you have to help get this job done.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
I think the view for a translation company in particular around quality should be that quality is a product. I was the project editor for ISO 17100, I think about 10 years ago or whatever it was, longer. And myself and the project leader, Chris Cox, were explaining to everybody this is a product standard. The product is the four eyes thing, that it doesn't mean that this is a particular service that translation companies can offer their customers, that their customers can ask a thing, but it's a product. And people were telling me, no, it's a process standard. And we were pretty clear, and also the leadership of ISO was pretty clear that this is what a product standard is. This was a product standard. But if you get your head around that that's the product, then it helps with how you present quality, because sometimes different customers want different products and it changes over time and whatever. And if you see it as a product, you can more effectively deal with it.
So are you happy to tell us a little bit about the team in memoQ, have you had to change the focus, the profile of the people that are being hired? What size is the organisation? What's the culture? What's it like to work there?
We've about 150 people, maybe a bit more. We also have worked with one group of, what do you call them? The formerly connected with the Budapest Technical University.
Oh, yeah.
Who've had a couple of companies, had a couple of developers, more than a couple of developers, but they've been working with us since 2004.
It's such an obvious way to do it, isn't it?
But
it's a great way to
the
do
bulk
it.
of it is now within memoQ. We've changed quite a lot over the years. We hire very competent developers. We've had a situation like we've hired people that have been more qualified and better positioned. We've been quite good. We've got a very thoughtful and creative HR team who've been very focused on what the company looks like in the future. And we've been building it up solidly. I mentioned that Agnes, our CTO, has added an awful lot to the development. What the company look like in the future. We're busy bringing in AI and bringing it in as the sort of the co-pilot thing. Like we're a Microsoft shop, and we've got a pretty close relationship with them. Like we're on the Azure marketplace. We use Azure for most of our customers use it. And that also adds to it's a much more secure platform than many others, and security for us is
Key.
a bigger issue than AI in some ways.
I agree. I can
Because
see that.
AI is like software.
I know. It's a tool.
Yeah, but it's also everybody is using it in some way or form or whatever. The idea that you differentiate because you've got AI is kind of silly. Some of the ways we use AI would differentiate us, but the clever part is because we've got significant domain experience. We put a lot of energy into getting domain experience, even when people come from a background where they have never heard of translation before, or we ensure that they get domain experience and we educate them. So, if you want to improve what somebody is doing with your software, the first step is to know what they're doing. And we put a lot of energy into talking to people to find this out. memoQ keeps on being used in new ways and whatever. Like we've had people from the very beginning that have used memoQ purely as a API tool. We had one major translation company that was a customer for 20 years at this stage almost, whom for most of that 20 years they've had their own system that just connects with memoQ through the API, and none of their project managers or whatever have got a memoQ on their desktop, but everybody's using it all the time through this API. And
very good example.
There's been lots of things like that where we don't always know what people are going to use or what's going to be important. We're putting more energy into do that. I think our competitors are also doing this. Telemetry is hugely important to any software company, and we get feedback on how software is being used. We hear sometimes somebody tell us that this functionality is very important, and then we show them, look, this is the number of people that's used it. It's you, and that's it. And it can be difficult, but It's good to have data even in that part that we can look at and whatever, and that's very much available now. You can get good feedback for how the tool's been used, and you can also find out things within the tool that, this has taken somebody 15 seconds to do. Well, it should be 2 seconds. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, why? Yeah. So, Peter, in the marketplace, tell us a little bit more about where memoQ stands and what might be the standout offering or things like that.
Well, the environment that we've been in has been quite exciting over the last couple of years. We've been a big disruptor of the industry. Like when we started, Trados had a near monopoly, and they had a technical debt problem where they had to move from the version of Trados that was on Microsoft Word to a studio thing, and that didn't work out quite as well as they had hoped. So we were there to take advantage of that, and at one stage we used to tell translators in particular that were more compatible with Trados than Trados, which at the time was true because Trados Studio wasn't compatible with the previous versions. But we've had that edge that likes competition.
How do you maintain that edge and develop that edge?
Well, one of the interesting things is that with some of our competitors being bought by private equity companies, they have sometimes brought in high caliber people whom have been, I think, helpful for the whole industry because they've upped the standard from senior level in the company. They've generally been very friendly people and people that you could talk to in a serious way. And I don't want to compete with a company that's awful because it's just no fun. I'd like to compete with serious companies that are trying hard. And you see this with competitors. Sometimes they do clever things and whatever.
I agree.
And it's nice to
be in that space.
Yeah, and also to win in that space.
I agree with that too.
That's
Yeah, I understand. Can I just ask you a question, going back to the start of the conversation, moving from social care into the tech world, did you have to have extra education? How did you handle that?
I had extra education.
Okay.
Well, I was a psychiatric nurse at one stage. That's quite good education for the tech
life.
world. But I also...
It's a good background for the language industry.
It's a good background for life.
I did a science degree with the Open University, and it was quite an interesting degree. There's a man called John Nogden whom has been consistently one of the great commentators on technology, and he writes a column in The Observer every Sunday, and he designed the course that I originally took. One of the big debates about management that's been the debate over the last 120 years has been about the scientific management people like Frederick Taylor, who was basically with a stopwatch and whatever. And then there were other people like the woman called Mary Parker Follett and later Peter Drucker. And they were saying psychology is psychology and group psychology. You have to do about system thinking. You have to look at how information works within an organization and whatever. And having an interest in people is really, really useful in all these things. Like Toyota, who are probably one of the most successful companies in the world, and who came from being a company that were developing looms for weaving to every other car on the road is a Toyota. They're when their executives are asked, well, kind of what's the core strategy? They say same thing. They say it's respect for people and continuous improvement. And that's, we'd like to do that too. We'd like to have respect for people and continuous improvement. And coming from a social background gives you that. I cannot remember the name of the book, but Carnegie, actually commissioned
a
How to Win Friends and
no, it's not that one, but I wish I could remember because I've read this one myself, and it's something that I keep on my bookshelf and every now and then take down. He commissioned somebody to go around the world to talk to the most successful individuals, and this is well over 100 years ago, to talk to the most successful individuals and find out what was the common traits. And he it took 20 years in those days for that to happen. So I cannot remember the author of this book, but in the 70s, the book was revisited, and another individual decided, and obviously did it an awful lot less than 20 years, and at that stage added in a number of different profiles of the versions of success. So there was some people that are involved in social care, people that are involved in sports success, as well as just business success. And the principles that applied in the 1970s or the 1980s when this book was recommissioned were exactly the same. That what was discovered, it was exactly the same as applied well over 100 years ago that Carnegie had commissioned. And that same book ended up being the foundation for a number of the books that you're referring to. So if I can remember the book, I will actually message you if it interests you, because not if I can remember, it's sitting on my bookshelf at home. So I just wanted to mention that.
Another similar comment on that was that Peter Drucker was involved in this project in the 1950s as part of the Marshall Plan, where European industrialists were brought to the United States to look at how manufacturing was done in the United States. And at the post tour meeting, one of them says to him, they was asking what they thought and whatever, and one of them says to him, productivity is an attitude.
Yeah.
And it's still an attitude.
It is an attitude. Most things, it is. I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah, well, for the moment, when we talk about AI successful AI success, let's say, I tend to hear more people say that the challenge is the mindset and not the tech side. And I think it's absolutely right, because there are so many AI projects that are failing now because of a lack of awareness and readiness, which is actually make people ready for it, make sure that people can use the new AI augmented processes rather than the implementation itself. Because when you have already, the right people being ready to use, to adopt the technology, then of course the implementation remains a challenge, but it's less of a challenge than the sort of mindset, the change of mindset. It's not just a change of tool set, it's a change of mindset.
What we sometimes when I say to employers that are looking to hire people is, most times you can pay for aptitude, but you can't pay for attitude. So I want to say thank you very much, Peter. I hope you found it interesting.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Yeah, I found it very interesting.
Yep.
Yes, I found it very interesting, and hopefully it was useful to you. And thank you, people, for watching and listening.